one of the saddest things that occurred to me when I first got this information was, I remember back in the early 90s, early 80s, there was a friend of mine from Atlanta who was actually in Lee's County, I believe it was, or Loudoun County. Very conscious sister by the name of Deborah Grace, and I remember her sharing with me her experiences of working with some of the most prominent people of the civil rights movement, and how she had felt that it was such an honor to be in the room, to be in the same breath as Reverend James Bevell, T. Vivian, I think Bishop or Elder, what's his name, Landry, Lowry, and how it had been such a moving and turning point in her life, and how it has been such an inspiration to her, and it gave her the desire to just want to move on and continue to fight in the struggle. So she came to my mind when I heard the story, because I remember her sharing an incident with me, and I totally blocked this out of my memory bank until the story appeared about Reverend Bevel. She began to speak on how Reverend Bevel abused her. While she did not get into specifics of the abuse, I knew that it had a traumatic effect on her, because when she mentioned his name, she just began to cry. And when I say cry, I don't mean just like cry, like a few tears running down her eyes, or maybe you see her eyes getting moist. I'm saying the kind of hurt that comes from your belly, the kind of wailing that you see when a child has been really hurt, when an individual has been left, or suffers the pain of a great loss. There's a different wailing. There's a different cry, and it's called wailing. And that's what I remember. So I began to concentrate and focus my energy on Sister Deborah. Wherever you may be today, God bless you, sister. Because I wasn't really sure at the time if I knew I believed her, but I really didn't understand the dynamics, because she never did, again, say anything regarding the specifics. She just said, I really don't want to talk about Reverend Bevel because he's a master manipulator, and he used and abused me. He messed with my mind and tore away my soul and left my self-esteem in complete shambles. And I said, Reverend Bevel? And I guess from my response, she knew that I was having a hard time believing what she was saying about this man. So as she began to say, yeah, he really hurt me, he really abused me, he really treated me like shit, she began to cry, and the tears began to flow down her face like water. They began to run down her face like a running stream. And it was then that I knew that this situation was serious, and that this woman had really been subjected to some abuse that was a lot more than my mind could probably comprehend. So I just want to let you know, wherever you are today, Deborah, under the sound of my voice, or just in the cosmics, I want you to know that I understand now. And whatever it was, and however it made you feel, you were right. My spirit is telling me that he needed to be punished and suffer the consequences for the abuse that he inflicted upon you as well. Because anytime a man would lay down with his own daughter, his own flesh and blood. In some countries, we believe in castrating you with death, brother. Because when you do that to a woman, I really don't think that you understand the ramifications behind what you do. When you take from a woman what she is not willing to give, you have literally killed her inside. There's a certain part of her that dies, and she has to have special attention and special work and a very special person who can't even break through to get through the courage, the core and the hurt of the damage that you have inflicted on that child. What would make you, brother? What would make you want to lay down with your own daughter? What would make you? How can you in your mind rationalize? Is it her mama is not treating you like the man you think you should be? And now you're looking at her daughter, and now you're seeing in her the same youthfulness and the same adoring behavior and the same love that your wife or your girlfriend once had for you. Now you will replace that by seeing that in her daughter, that you could sit there and lay there and have sexual intercourse with a child, with your own daughter. You, brother, are defiled and sick. And anybody that walks in that darkness is despicable. We need to rid the planet of you, and we can't do it soon enough, because as you have killed the young girls inside with your act of filthiness and degradance, you should have to suffer some type of death for the death that you inflicted upon her. And I say that with a very special personal feeling behind that, because there was a person that was very near and dear to my heart that I love very much, and they too experienced the sexual diabolical trauma of being molested by their father. And not only was they molested by their father, they were eventually impregnated and required and gave birth subsequently to the child that you produced in her womb as a nasty snake in the grass. Not only did you set the mother up for a life of complete madness, you set and sentenced that family to the same fate. Because most of the times, and especially in the black community, that's the kind of stuff that we ain't willing to talk about. See, we don't want to talk about. It's really easy for us to talk about what the white man does to us, what the establishment does to us, what we experience at the hands of white supremacy. And while all these things may be true, and they do have a devastating damage on the psychic of black people, I think there's nothing more worse. There is nothing that you can blame the white man for when you lay down with your child. That's a self-responsibility. That's a self-made choice. That's a self-inflicted wound that you are placing on that child, on yourself, and on the black community. So I want to say to anybody that's suffering and are in the thrones of incest right now, you need to step out. And when I